Hey, Chris.
Hello, guys.
Mr. Chris Anderson. Yeah. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity. I'm excited to talk to you guys again and connect after a couple years and hopefully the greater Auburn community.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you got going on right now is pretty cool. I know you've been in business for a while. Just number of years, like a handful of years.
Yeah.
Right? And you're currently, the name of your business is Home Detail Services.
Correct.
And why don't you just give us a quick little synopsis of what your business provides, like the services?
Yeah, I'll give you the quick version. So more or less, I started the business 8 years ago to pay my way through college. I grew up in Roseville, didn't have the greatest choices for college, so really I started it selfishly as a way to pay for my UC Santa Barbara education. I was about to transfer there from Sierra College. Mm-hmm. I was a caretaker and a paper boy. I needed money to pay my way through college. So I was above nothing at the time. One of my buddies had gone door to door cleaning garbage cans.
Whoa.
And I thought, well,
why not?
Why not? Yeah, I'm above nothing. I'm 18. I need money. So I started doing that in a community called Sun City, Roseville, which for everyone that's unfamiliar, it's an age-restricted 55-plus active living retirement community. It's a fancy way of saying it's a suburb, full of single-family homes. Just everyone there is typically like 65 to 85. They're generally affluent and started knocking on doors in that community. Found out that, okay, stinky garbage cans are a small problem for them.
Right.
But what is a significantly more omnipresent problem is physically demanding tasks around the home.
Right.
Largely having to do with a ladder.
Yeah, anything up high, right?
Yeah, so, over time we kind of niched down to things with ladders and really heavily focused on that niche in those 55-plus communities. So things like gutter cleaning and window cleaning, solar panel cleaning, Christmas lights. That's how I paid my way through college, came back home to grow it, and in the process met you guys through some networking events.
Yeah.
Nice.
And are you basically now still serving the same clientele primarily, or has your customer base expanded since then?
We do residential at large. I would say it's expanded in the sense of just the general Sacramento area. We serve from Elk Grove to El Dorado Hills to Auburn, really generally, like 45 minutes in every direction of Roseville, more or less. But we are super heavily focused on the 55-plus communities. I would say about 3/4 of our work tends to be in those communities, but the other quarter or so is just, in general, residential. Oftentimes, like our second customer persona, we call the Grandma Gertrude is the 75-year-old lady that lives in the retirement communities that we're oftentimes helping. But frequently, we're helping her daughter, who's maybe like 50 and affluent, lives in a gated community. For the grandma, the value proposition is more about safety. She doesn't want to climb a ladder, and she especially is trying to keep her husband off of a ladder.
Right, because he's like, I can do it. Superman syndrome still.
Yep.
That makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember as a kid doing yard work for money, and there was one time, I was staining a guy's deck, and then he needed something up high stained on the house. And he got out this ladder for me, and it was like the longest, jankiest ladder I've ever seen. And it's like wobbling. I'm like, dude, I'm just a kid. You're paying me like $15. No, it wasn't even $15 an hour at the time, And it was just like, I'm not getting up on that death trap to like stain your fascia.
Yeah. He's like, I got you. I'll hold the ladder.
Yeah. He goes, all right, I'll do it. And this guy's like, he's elderly, and he's going up this ladder with this bucket, and thank God nothing bad happened. But the thing is like freaking wobbling and swinging. I'm like, you crazy. Like, you're crazy. Like, if you fall, you're done.
Yeah.
I'm a kid. I could probably like roll out of it at best.
Bounce a couple times.
But like, your hips are going to shatter if you fall from there. But it's like, just dead set mentality. I can get up there. I can do it.
Yeah. Oftentimes, it's that 80-year-old man just doesn't want to give up the dignity of being able to do these things that he's done his whole life. But
absolutely.
On the flip side of the coin, he's worked so hard, and as a couple, they've probably worked so hard to put themselves into that position where they're enjoying retirement. They go golf, whatever, they play cards or whatever the leisurely physical activities they like to do in those communities. And the one thing I have to tiptoe around with a lot of people in that community and that age cohort is like not necessarily leaning too heavily into like the fear, uncertainty, death part of it, and fear mongering that like you climb a ladder next time, you're going to fall.
Right.
There's a probability of that, right? But so frequently in these communities, they've heard of a neighbor or a friend and, a family member that, all they did was tried to clean their gutters, and they didn't have anyone looking out, and they fell and they broke their hip, they hit their head, whatever might have occurred that is clearly like optimal to avoid, especially in that
You got
age.
a little coffee on your nose. Oh, you're good. Sorry, it was going to distract me. Like, I need to hear what you're saying.
Thank you for saying
You're welcome. Yeah, absolutely. So maybe the conversation looks more like, are you sure you want to do that? Instead of like, they're not dumb, they're just like, just ask them, are you sure?
Yeah, I would say oftentimes we're educating, like especially that it's the woman that holds the purse strings that oftentimes makes the purchasing decision in our case.
Yeah.
So frequently maybe she's a widow and she needs to be educated about like, hey, you have gutters, like you need to clean your gutters.
Okay.
Otherwise, an ounce of prevention with gutter cleaning is worth a pound of cure. You're so much better off cleaning the gutters, paying a couple $100. Hopefully we earn the right to help you. If not, someone else should.
Yeah.
Versus you neglecting it for 10 years and water damage occurring and it costing, 10 times as much at least for a contractor to remediate it.
Right. That makes sense.
So when you first started out and you mentioned door knocking, do you have any fun stories from that? Or at least how did that go? Like, was that how you generated your first customer?
Yeah, I would say I don't really have a great timeline of this, but I know as an 18-year-old, I was doing it in the summer, August of 2015, I want to say is the year. I did it for a couple months, knocking on doors.
Yeah.
And then I would say by doing that, people had tipped me off that like, hey, you actually don't need to knock on doors. There's community publications. There's these events. There's these other channels that...
Was that the residents or just like people you were talking to like in the business community?
That was years before I really tapped into the business community. Those were residents in the 55-plus communities in Sun City.
By the way, you don't have to bother me like this. I already have everybody like formally bothering me through mail.
Or 3 vacuum cleaner salesmen for this morning, So...
Yeah.
They tipped me off about that pretty early on, and so we moved away from knocking on doors.
Right.
It's just more scalable to publicize in their magazine or their newspaper, where all 5,000 residents might see it instead of one at a time.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
When did you feel like this was an idea worth keeping on versus just something temporary you were doing to make it through school?
Yeah.
Or pay a few bills?
I think the first couple years, it was definitely me throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what would stick and just being maybe like stubborn enough to try.
Yeah.
And I think once I was about to graduate from UC Santa Barbara, I was in a very rare position, I would say, for someone that was 20, 21 at the time. Like I was going to graduate without debt because of the business and going to community college and, life choices that weren't really well explained in that 15-second, little segment. But I would say around that time I realized, okay, like what really are the risks for me coming home? Worst case, I fall on my face in a year or two and I realize that, hey, this is a great opportunity, but I'm still marketable and still get employment elsewhere. Right. So I'd say that was the time in which I kind of made the decision to go full bore into it, come back home, try to grow it, and kind of grow my roots in Sacramento.
Right. So you must have had some promise then as far as like clientele. Maybe your business model was conducive to not giving up. Like if you have, do you have any recurring services? Like, is that part of what you do? Like, I don't want to call them maintenance packages, but something akin to that where you can keep a customer.
Yeah, great question. And I would say this is a big pain point with the services that we provide is it's oftentimes very transactional. Right. Grandma Gertrude, our customer persona, she calls us every couple years because she observes that, oh, my gutters are overpouring and time to clean them. But, we try to encourage them to be more proactive instead of reactive, right? Yeah. But because by the time they've seen a clog or, water overpouring their gutters, it's already happened.
It's probably been happening.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've tried to push what I'll call discount membership programs or home maintenance plans the last couple of years with mixed success. But that's how we're combating the transactional model. Yeah. I'd say it's kind of unusual part of the buying behavior of like gutter cleaning versus other home services, pest control, house cleaning. Those by nature are more recurring. But absolutely, we're trying to push more into the recurring space, both for like business valuation purposes and ease in operations and staffing.
What's the like breadth of services that you offer, right? It's like, surely you don't just clean gutters. Right?
Yeah. It's really like 95% is the 4 core services. It's gutter cleaning, which is most common. Window cleaning second to that. Solar panel cleaning.
Nice.
And then Christmas lights. So kind of
yeah,
complementary in their seasonality.
Sure.
We do really, really well in gutter cleaning, Christmas light season, because those kind of overlap. And then as we get into spring and summer, more window and solar panel cleaning. I think there's other services that could be naturally added on over time. Pressure washing, dryer vent cleaning is
But
what a lot of local competitors do.
Sounds like, though, for every service that you have, you have to figure out the ideal process. Because, I mean, you're still showing up to the house, performing the service and leaving. But there's also kind of like you're going to get a certain set of questions with each service before they hire you, I would assume.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most people are just asking right away, like, well, I would need gutter cleaning. How much does it cost?
Sure.
So
Right.
I think we have the 4 main things that we do really systemized in terms of pricing and on the operations front, training and like delivering the service. And we have really good reviews. I'm confident those are services that we can continue to execute on, like the standard that we've really developed the last couple of years. People generalize us sometimes as a handyman. Being that like, oh, we can hang pictures, we can change your dryer vent,
Right.
change your air filter or your light bulb, etc. But I almost think that kind of takes away from like the perceived value of being really good at things with ladders.
Got it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Really good at things with ladders.
And that matches, it matches your customer base, right? The brand you're going for, good at things with ladders.
Yeah.
It matches, the age group of the bulk of your customers, right? I mean, sometimes it's hard. It's like there's the thing where it's like, oh, I'm just gonna help this person do this thing while we're here, and maybe have some sort of microsystem set up for like a change order or like an add-on when it's like if they ask, yes, but we're not trying to like push that to everybody, especially in the marketing materials. But you mentioned training. Training is no simple, especially the first time. Like you're going to train somebody for the first time, like as the trainer or as the person responsible for conveying the knowledge. Like how has that been over the years?
I think I was warned very early on when I started to tap into the business community. Probably about 2018 is when I started to go to networking and stuff in the Sacramento area. And I want to say around that time, like, I'll generally call them a mentor, had just pointed out that, hey, like people are the most difficult part of any business.
Yeah.
And like, this is a very operationally intense business, right? At the end of the day, we clean gutters, we do XYZ service, and that person needs to like interact with Grandma Gertrude, that 80-year-old woman in a respectable manner.
And do the job.
Right? So it's like, it was great when I was doing all the work because I know I could treat Grandma Gertrude like my grandma, and I could clean her gutter well, and I can be thorough, and like,
it seems so transferable. Well, I can do it.
Yeah, but it's difficult to necessarily find someone that can balance both parts of it. I would say is probably the big challenge in the home services space in general, especially consumer-facing services. It's not show up to my office complex and clean all the windows and not interact with anyone. It's you got to make the day of this grandma. That's voluntarily paying you hundreds of dollars for help.
Yeah, and the truth is, like, you should do a good job, but she's also not going to climb up there to see that you did a good job. So it's like a lot of the perceived value is just how you treat that customer, right? Because that's what they perceive. They're not looking down in the gutter necessarily. That's just,
Oh yeah, that's really clean. You did a good job.
Right. So they're not like ranking their perception of you is not built on how clean the gutter is. Right. I mean, maybe if it's not overflowing anymore, they can perceive that. So I'm just a few of my first jobs was home services related. I was the TV guy at one point. Then I was like an alarm technician at one point, and it was like in people's houses all the time. And really quickly you kind of, or I at least learned, the people just want a good personal experience. They just, nobody wants somebody in their house that's, messy, obviously rude.
Yeah, untrustworthy,
looks shady. They want the thing done, but they also don't want to go through hell to get it done. And so I'd imagine you've spent a lot of time mulling over different approaches to training your employees, and not only that, but even before you train them, hiring them. Yeah. And trying to get a sense of are you trainable? Right?
Yeah.
You know?
I think over the last couple of years, once this became really apparent to me that the first hire or two that I had brought on, there wasn't training systems or processes put into place, and I pretty much throw them in the passenger seat. I drove, I said, tag along with me, come with me.
Yeah.
I'll be your guide. And soon after, that person that was sitting in the passenger seat for 6 months left. And it's like, okay, well, now I got to find someone
Meanwhile, you paid him the whole time.
Yeah, I paid him, and he was productive, right? But
sure.
Definitely didn't get to the point in productivity as I would desire, right? Because ultimately, I need to find someone that can do the job and replace me in the job, or whoever that leading operations person is, the crew leader. And especially for that grandma, like we're saying, I mean, it's a prerequisite that she needs to trust you to let you or any physically capable person, especially a man, into her house, especially if she's a widow, let's say. And, you're cleaning her windows and you're in her bathroom area where she keeps her prescription drugs and, her jewelry box is right over there and whatever, So over the last couple of years, as that became really apparent, we've just mad shot like hundreds of videos of here's all the little things that you could observe on a job site with window cleaning or Christmas lights or gutter cleaning. So you look at our YouTube and there's our effectively our training that they sit through for a couple days. They watch a bunch of videos. They take some quizzes, pretty much ensuring that, okay, like I know this information.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then they'll
now, do you have those like videos just set to private? So it's like
they're public.
Oh, interesting.
I don't really care too much. I'm not hiding it. But they're
maybe that's a good thing
system.
Actually, if somebody happens to find it, which they probably won't, but
yeah,
in theory,
I think there's about 3 views on most of those videos.
Yeah, you're like the 3 employees that you
exactly.
That's clever though. Yeah, just put it on YouTube. Watch this playlist.
Yeah, exactly. And take this quiz. More importantly, validate that you actually have the information. You didn't.
Have you had any problems with that? Like people still not like getting it?
I mean, we mandate, so effectively to like pass the training course, like you have to answer every question right. So like that kind of circumnavigates the challenge that you just mentioned.
Right.
Because they're pretty much acknowledging that, I do know this information. Otherwise you couldn't move to, step 2. But clearly like there's different, levels of like common sense is oftentimes what it really comes down to with the services that we provide. So, of course, outcomes are different depending on the person.
Yeah. So door knocking, training. Okay, how about scaling? Right? So that kind of falls into the hiring category, right? So I always have at least considered home services as a business, meaning should I consider starting? So in my brain, so what we do, let me back up one step. What we do is like very not home services related. Like
it's very B2B. It's very it requires a lot of education for the customer. Like there's a lot of
questions.
Like, okay, so like I'm going to pay you a lot of money. Like what am I going to get out of it and how soon and why should I trust you and all of this.
And we really have to be able to explain how we're going to get from A to B. And it seems we have to take the customer from like this ethereal, mysterious state of mind to like, to a state of certainty of like, we're going to do this for you. And this is how, and this is the expected results. Right.
Right.
But I feel like with home services, like that you were mentioning, is like, I need my gutters cleaned. How much? Yeah. It's very straightforward. And for that reason, I've always been attracted to the prospect of having a home services business, albeit I've never put an ounce of effort into it. I just have, it's like an imagination wondering thing. Because it seems, and this is like not true, but like it seems like a relatively simple concept. It's like, okay, we go, we do this thing, you pay us, we leave, without all the mechanics involved. It's like, it seems like you'd be able to find people to be able to do that job. But then when the question of scaling happens, it's like you, Chris, can't do it all. So when you started, you were the guy.
Yeah.
But if you wanted any more money than you could possibly make fitting in basically you had to figure out you had to get people to replace you. And then to scale, you need more people, but to get more people, you run into different problems. What sort of things, like problems, have you run into when it came to trying to actually scale up your operation?
I think I treat really like what we do in the Sacramento area as like a franchise prototype, effectively. So
Nice.
that's a title I've heard from the E-Myth Revisited, which was a book that was promoted and pretty much I was told to read from my business coach.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
a good recommendation.
Yeah, so that was a couple years ago, and really, I mean, I think since reading that book, that became really apparent to me that okay, like if I expect someone else to do these things, like it can't just be in my head.
Right.
I need
right.
to put all these videos together and train someone accordingly and pretty much do quality assurance, put forms together to ensure that they're doing the thing right and, et cetera.
Is that boring for you?
I think I can't speak in like an umbrella statement, right? Some parts are boring, I'm sure.
Okay.
Right.
But
I just find stuff like that to be boring sometimes. That's why I ask, because I'm just like, this like somebody has to do this. Like it's got to get written down.
no one else is doing it. Yeah, that's on me. So I wouldn't say boring. I mean, I think I love business. I'm definitely a nerd and a sponge in general. So I love to learn, and business is a great arena to do that.
Oh yeah.
And I think clearly per your original question, like there's obvious like long-term challenges scale wise.
Yeah.
This is what I'll like analyze this business as or any home service business is it's a very high probability of success if you
Right.
do a couple basic things.
That's kind of back to what I was saying about assuming, back to what I was assuming about like, maybe I should start a home services business just to have one.
Yeah.
Because it seems like you could do a few core things correct and then still be better than like 70% of
Absolutely.
the ones out there.
Yeah.
'Cause
I
you're-
think that's a pretty safe assumption.
Okay, good. So I'm not completely
No,
like,
I think as long as you answer your phone,
Yeah.
you
Right.
show up on time, you do what you say you're going to do.
Treat people
you
good.
know, you treat people well, like all these basic things
Yeah.
that are just kind of human nature.
yeah.
I can guarantee you're probably doing better than 70% of
Yeah.
the competitors that aren't answering their phone and take a week to give a quote or never get back to the person
Yeah.
or
Following up is so underrated.
show up in a wife
As a
beater
business
or
skill.
an
Right.
unacceptable type of shirt or
Right.
whatever it might be,
Yeah.
You smell them like cigarettes, et cetera. Think of all the things that maybe not perceived positively from
Yeah.
a homeowner.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. So those are the core things. Not necessarily like obviously you have to do a good job, but the basics of like coming across as a professional. That's what you would say the core things are.
I think that's something that helps home services companies stand out from an outside view. So there was one company. I'm sorry, you asked him a question. But at the same time, like, there was a garage door company, I think out of Folsom or something, but they send out mailers pretty regularly. I mean, it worked on me eventually. I bought, right? But it sounds stupid, but like they had a nice looking logo, and the mailers looked nice. They didn't look cheap, and they had offers on just already there. Basically, like, get this for this. So it was like, by the way, if you're listening and want to learn something about marketing, like if you're going to try to hit somebody cold with a piece of marketing material and maybe you don't plan on following up, like you don't have them in a sales funnel online or something, like you got to have an offer there. Like give them something to bite on. Because if you just say, hey, I'm Joe the plumber, they're like, cool, you're Joe the plumber. But if you say, hey, I'm Joe the plumber and I'll fix the leak under your sink for a limited time deal of a $70 fee versus our hourly rate, then people know they can get the leak fixed for $70, right? I'm not saying that's like I have no idea what it actually costs, but,
Yeah,
but
but,
like having that concrete offer.
Absolutely. I mean,
Anyway.
Joe the plumber is clearly going to get much higher rate of conversion, having some offer at all than,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this company, when you called the number, it was like the phone system was, albeit that it was automated, it was like perfectly automated. It was like if you're it's like they had a special number just that was only on the mailer versus like a different number, and then put you into their phone system, and it made it really easy to schedule your appointment. And then the guy showed up on time, and it was like a very beautifully crafted system. Showed up, did the job that I signed up for, paid the amount, and then it was like super easy. The guy left, and then there was like some really brilliant follow-up marketing after the fact, and it was all text message based. So everything was it seemed completely automated, but like just so good. They cut out so much friction from the buying process and the customer satisfaction standpoint. I was just like very impressed. And to me, that was like miles and miles and miles ahead of most. Like they're fixing a garage door. Like this is like not glamorous, just like cleaning a gutter.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a dirty job and somebody has to do it. And I was impressed. And so all I know is like most home services companies are not like that.
Yeah. I mean, not a fraction of the things you'd mentioned.
Right. Not a fraction. Yeah. With the whole text message marketing follow-up, like I was just like, wow.
I mean,
like,
literally most, if you call most other garage door companies garage doors, plumbing, HVAC, those are more, I would say, like sophisticated part segments of the home services space. But you call a landscaper or you call, your average run-of-the-mill handyman, you're literally probably going to be sent to voicemail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
No, I like.
But
that's
like,
my
how
experience.
expensive? How expensive was it for this company to do this? I just know that the person who at least set all this up is just like a real entrepreneur, right? Because they see this wide open lane, thinking, "Wait a minute, I could just make." They've probably done other businesses before successfully, is what I'm saying.
Probably.
And then they came in and was like, "Wait a minute." You know how to fix garage doors? Or like talking to their buddy around a fire pit or something. And he's like, I could just set up a like automated system to just keep getting you business, and he's like, if I just take a cut or whatever, like you know how businesses like come to fruition like that sometimes. And so like you have one guy who just sets up this business system essentially. And then it was just like, it was so beautiful, what was the question you asked?
The main question was like, you said the core things, right? And then you listed a bunch of things that were more like customer experience related than actual like your 4 core services, let's say. Those are the things that you think that a business needs to get right in order to be successful, or is that what I was understanding?
I think I'd probably need to like hear exactly what I said, but
okay. So I'll try to like showing up on time, being presentable, answering the phone, being prompt with the quote, not taking a week to do that, actually getting back to the customer, those things.
Yeah, like how many years did it take you to fall into those things and be like, oh, I need to get these right, instead of just being a young man who can do this stuff?
Yeah, I think
because there's a huge difference.
Of course, yeah. And I think at the start, like I was literally that 18-year-old kid that like I looked like their grandkid, and they're like, "Well, I'm gonna give him a shot. Like, sure,
right.
I like his hustle, and I'm gonna support him."
Yeah.
Now it's more like, "Oh, you're a professional. Like you do all the things that Charles you just mentioned, and you have some sort of identification. Like, oh, I know who you are now. Like when you show up to my door as an 80-year-old woman, like I know you're the right person." So.
Right.
I would say all of those things I'll blanket or bucket them into what I think increases the perception of a home service business, especially being professional, is all those little things. And I would say we've tried to piece all those components together the last couple of years, just through like the systems building that you're kind of teasing.
Yeah. I don't know. It just seems like a wide open lane to me. It's like figure out a service. Sorry, I just covered mine. Figure out like a service that can be performed. That doesn't require like an insane amount of training to accomplish, and then like have good people do it, and then set up the system, like the onboard, the customer, like set
journey.
up set up the customer journey. And really like focus on that, because it's like there's how many ways are there to clean a gutter? A few?
A couple. Yeah, but for the homeowner it doesn't really matter.
Right.
The process by which it's being done.
Yeah,
besides a few details.
Right. I mean, like if I get up on my roof, I'm using the leaf blower and I'm just blowing crap everywhere.
Because you don't care about having to clean it up afterwards, and I'm sure there's
well,
probably,
it doesn't look bad. I don't know. Like if somebody like gets up there and is like pulling it out by hand, I'm like, oh, that's like an like dainty, tidy job. But I'm just like, it's like,
that might be acceptable in Auburn, but not like in some more HOA type communities that they're just a little more uptight.
Sure. Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
And can kind of be sketchy sometimes standing on a tile roof.
I mean other service providers do too, right? Roofers, solar panel installers, etc. But absolutely, definitely, like probably the most forefront concern for most homeowners as they hire out gutter cleaning is that exact fact.
Have you hired anybody to do like internally? I'm sure you've hired plenty of contractors to do various things, but besides just the talent in the field, like have you hired anybody in-house to replace some of the things that you would do on like I guess you could say administrative level?
Yeah.
What? Who?
I would say the biggest things that you need to get off your plate, if you're going to get into this space, and one thing that I like about it is it's a very low barrier to entry.
Sure.
It's not very expensive equipment depending on the services that you're providing, et cetera. So that's how I could get into it as an 18-year-old, per your point earlier. And I think over the last couple of years, the biggest things to hand off are the operations in the field, because that's where you're going to take most of your time as an owner-operator, or answering the phone, the admin stuff, the office. So we've hired a UC Davis grad to answer the phones effectively 5 days a week, and there's a current student that answers the other 2 days a week where the other person's not on the clock.
Sure.
A couple interns. We've had typically about 3 interns per quarter for the last couple years, mainly from UC, the UC system. So I'd say they typically work on really like sexy, career-oriented projects they're interested in, marketing or accounting or whatever it might be. But
like more white collar kind of.
Yeah, I mean they're trying to get some professional experience, but simultaneously they provide us some help, and vice versa, right?
Yeah, how do you structure internships? Do you have like a general structure that you follow, or is it kind of different for each?
I'd say the first week or two is kind of just orienting the new hire to like, hey, here's some projects that I effectively like. I want to give them some constraints.
Yeah,
be like, people can be more creative once they have constraints.
Yeah,
instead of like all of the world of HR or everything you could do possibly marketing. Like, here are the 3 or 5 things that I think we could accomplish in the next 10 weeks.
Nice.
Like your project, more or less.
Right.
And that's effectively the deliverable that they need to give to like their supervising professor to give them internship for credit core units.
And do you just like advertise for those positions through the colleges?
Handshake is by far the best recruitment tool that I've found for both interns and for job applicants at large.
I've actually never heard of that.
Yeah. So that's Handshake, cool. That's the preferred job board for almost all the colleges locally in the Sacramento area, and really like probably nationally, it's probably the biggest.
Good to know. Yeah, that's a good one. What about fleet vehicles? Like as far as like buying vehicles for the company, is that something that you have to do, or do you have company vehicles?
Yeah. Really, like historically, no. Yeah. This literally happened yesterday. I bought our what will be our first like fleet vehicle that we're gonna wrap, and definitely gonna help us in terms of recognition, especially if we can drive that thing in the same Sun City Lincoln Hills community. They're gonna see it, and it's gonna help our perception. So hasn't historically been too much of a consideration. Like I've just driven. Yeah. I started this business from a 2005 Scion TC. Working out of the back of a hatchback.
Right. Yeah.
And then I got a truck a couple years ago, and then, the business continued to grow, and I thought, okay, well, time to like invest into the branding and like wrap something.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's fun. Yeah. My buddy drives like a Scion. Is this Chad has a Scion?
Yeah, a little Scion XB.
A little toaster.
Yeah.
I want one, but it's like an 05 or something, so they're hard to find. There's like a perfect box shape.
Yeah.
Well, Alan Lee, he does a handyman business, and that was one of his first. He had a F-150, but then he went and bought a little Scion XB because it's like, I can fit my ladder in the back,
Exactly, yeah.
And now it's his estimator's car, but, it's perfect for that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's not a lot of, like, vehicles out there that make perfect. I mean, the vans, the little, like, Ford Transits.
Exactly.
Are kind of in there, but we need more box cars. That's what America needs is more box. So you can wrap them for your business and have a nice mobile billboard.
Yeah.
And I mean, mobile billboards pretty much exactly what it is, and that's really what our branding company like heavily encouraged was a Sprinter van.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you see most HVAC plumbing companies use.
Yeah.
Because all four sides, it's a rolling billboard.
Yeah,
on,
it's big.
on the freeway.
Yeah, big square box thing.
Yeah.
So did you go with like the Mercedes Sprinter, or did you get like the Ford?
I got a Chevy Bolt EUV because
yeah.
there's enough space to fit the equipment that we need, like a small ladder and the things for window cleaning, etc. And
Is that one fully electric?
it's fully electric, yeah. Nice. So probably not the the choice that the branding company would have made, but it makes sense for me personally and for the business.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just plug it in at the shop at night and it's good to go the next
exactly.
day, right?
Well, and it's like you can't leak oil on your customer's driveway now.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Not maybe you've never even considered that.
Yeah, we don't really drive in park in driveways for that exact reason.
Right.
But
Yeah, just parallel park out front.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's great. What let's see. What's happening next? Where are you headed?
What's happening next? I would say in the immediate, it's implementing the rebrand. So, historically the business has been called Student Services, and that was kind of the origin story as explained earlier. And then over the last couple of years, we've tried to move towards home detail services, and I think it's finally time to pull the trigger. We got the vehicle. We're going through the kind of full rebranding process with the shirts and uniforms and signage and et cetera. So I'd say that's the most immediate thing on my plate as the business owner is, okay, time to move away from effectively the origin story of me being the 18-year-old paying my way through college and more so reorient towards, okay, who are we helping? It's grandmas, oftentimes, residential homeowners in general. And, frequently the thing that they're hiring us for is because they don't want to climb a ladder. So that's part of the branding, like the logo.
Yeah, it's just kind of, it feels more of like it's growing with you. Right, as the entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could have technically chose to stick with, was it A+ student services, or was that just like...
It was student services, A+ home services was like the little tagline.
Yeah.
But definitely confusing, and I would say for several reasons, on the optics front, like...
Yeah, you're like, are you serving students?
Yeah. I mean, some people would think like, oh, we're a tutoring service. Or like other people would see the logo and think like, oh, I'm going to hire a 15-year-old kid because he's going to be cheap.
Yeah.
Right, right.
And that's like the opposite of the brand image that we want because...
Well, you can't.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't succeed if I was the cheapest. And
right.
That's effectively like the biggest, most successful service companies are never the cheapest.
No.
This isn't Walmart.
No.
Right.
There's no economies of scale like that. So.
Well, it's really interesting. I was thinking about pricing and home services. I was probably yesterday when I was thinking about this recording day. But and I actually did clean my gutters yesterday. Actually, that's why. That's actually why.
Spring cleaning.
Yep.
Yeah, isn't that ironic? Anyway, so I'm up there and obviously I'm going, this is terrible. Right? Like, this sucks. But then, the entrepreneur in me is going, well, if it sucks for me, it sucks for everybody else. Right? And if it sucks for somebody else, they might be willing to pay. Right? So anyway, I got to like thinking about that. And then in my head, I'm like, well, what would I charge for something like this? And in my head, I'm like, probably $150, $200, like easy.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, then you have to consider how big the house is. Does that factor in? Like, does that make the what if it's 2 stories? Do you have to like charge more because it's a 2-story house and it's whatever? It's slower because you're on a taller ladder. It takes longer to do it. Blah blah blah. And then I thought in my head, well, who would be willing to pay $200 whatever something dollars perhaps to clean the gutters? And I'm like, well, it's not really about how easy it is. It's about somebody not wanting to do it. And it needs to be done. And that's where you can make money. And I think, what you did as a college student was brilliant. I need money. I'm going to go do something that I can do that somebody else doesn't want to do, and they'll give me money to do it. Very simple. And that's actually like how the world works, like through and through, top to bottom. It's like, what's
there's something I can't do or don't want to do.
Like, can I massage my own back? Not like the right way. Like, I don't have a choice, right?
Great example.
Like, or how about something I don't want to do? Like, sometimes you want to just go out for lunch. Just make me a sandwich. Like, that sandwich is going to cost potentially $11, $12. And it's like, oh, I could have made that for $2.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, yeah, but did you want to? No. So it's very simple. It's just like everything. And so I think a lot of people who are considering starting a business don't often factor in the simple value proposition of, you got a little injury on your pinky.
Right.
Look at you. Sorry. They don't factor in that value proposition of, am I doing something that somebody else doesn't want to do? And that's like the service model. Like obviously with product sales, it's, I guess that's a whole different thing. But yeah, in my head, I'm like, okay, how long did it take me to do the gutters? Probably 15, 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. Actually, that's a lie. It took me that long to get the pine needles off of the like crappy little pine needle guards that I had.
Yeah.
It's like a perforated metal. Yeah. It's terrible. It takes just as much time to pull the pine needles out of the perforations in the holes than it would take you to just pull them out of the gutter. So I'm probably going to take them off. But anyway, one of the gutters is still full of water. So I didn't actually finish the job. So
that's why it took 15 minutes.
That's why it took 15 minutes. Exactly. So I actually have to go back up there at some point this week and unclog the gutter. And like, that's probably going to take me 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And so, and that's not the worst part. The worst part is like, maybe I'll be a little bit sore from being at the gym or like, and then I have to crouch down. I have to get on the roof and bend over. And it's just like uncomfortable. It's nasty. It's like slimy. I don't know. It's just like, I can see why somebody would want to now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not some of these things that services that seem simple and like, oh, I'll just do it or I've always done it. It's like, I think people just get to the point where it's like, I don't want to do that. Like chimney sweeping. I can just sweep my chimney in like 15 minutes. Like the whole thing's done in like 15 minutes, but you could probably charge a couple $100 to sweep a chimney.
Yeah, especially if I've never done it before, because I'm thinking like, what do I got to do to protect the interior of the house? Am I going to get soot everywhere? Like, how much is a chimney sweep thing? Like all of these things is
even if it's not complicated,
right? But I don't have that. Like I don't have a fireplace.
It's certainty.
And so I'm like, you say I could sweep my chimney in 15 minutes. I'm like, really? I would imagine that'd be a half-day project where it's like drop cloths and like, like getting up on the roof.
Watching YouTube videos.
Yeah. And actually mine's pretty simple. I guess there are chimneys out there that aren't as simple. But at the same time, to your point, it's like you revealed this uncertainty about the situation.
Right.
And you can solve, by the way, uncertainty is, if you can solve uncertainty for somebody, you can make money.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're like, hey, we'll be in and out in 20 minutes. They're like, wow, you must be a professional. It's like, well, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Some practice.
There's only like so far you can take it, but yeah, I guess you could say I'm a professional, in some of these situations. And I don't know. I guess my point with all this rambling is there are so many lanes wide open to go make money. And I think people get caught up in what they're doing too much or what they could be doing. Like, is it going to be the chimney? Is it going to be gutter cleaning? Is it going to be mowing lawns? Whatever it is. They get caught up in that part a little bit too much. I'm mainly speaking to new entrepreneurs or people who want to become a business owner, let's say. They get caught up on that instead of thinking about how they're going to deliver. And I think that was kind of part of your story is like this maturation process of 18-year-old kid just needs some extra money, get through college to like, how good can I make this thing?
What is everything else that adds to the experience? Because it seems like that's kind of what you've been working on the last couple of years. It's like, okay, so the service is the service. Like, let's make the whole experience really good. Let's make sure that our techs show up and look professional and act professional. Let's make sure that, there's no bad experiences throughout the whole process. And let's work on building a relationship and not having it so much be a transactional one-off thing. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, I think over the last couple of years, I've really been fortunate to find myself in this industry because you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
You just got to figure out what other businesses, oftentimes in different geographic markets, are also cleaning gutters or putting up Christmas lights. And, there's tons of information out there as to, best practices and, ways to end a interaction with a customer and get positive reviews and all these things, wear shoe covers inside, ask about the black and white picture on the wall, and give them forget-me-nots is some little cheesy thing that we do at the end, like little flower seeds.
Oh, that's fun.
We say,
that's great.
They're forget-me-nots, plant them in the spring, forget-me-not.
That's
That
that's
80-year-old lady loves it. And it's like 30 cents, right? And it's that marketing.
Our buddy has an auto shop. He does the cookies, the famous Amos.
Yeah, he gives you a bag of famous Amos cookies in your seat when you drive. It's
like
great.
a nice.
In the summer, they kind of melt, but like the chocolate chips. But it's something about make us famous, leave us a review. Right, another clever little. Yeah, we should do something. Do we do clever things?
No, we don't. Yeah,
we need to do something clever. That's a good idea.
I like the forget-me-nots. That's really awesome.
Yeah, I'll shout out my business coach. She gave me that idea, not an original.
That's great.
idea
That's
myself.
awesome.
But
Who's your business coach? Is this public information?
I'll give her a shout out, Linda Bigler.
Yeah.
I met her through while I probably around the same time I met you guys through I want to say Startup Sack is how I met you guys. Just or Haney Biz maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like the Growth Factory events. So I met Linda Bigler through the Small Business Development Center. That effectively is a government funded or a tax funded
is that like a county program
entity? The Small Business Development Center is national.
Okay.
And I think, I'm totally going to slaughter explaining this, but there's like a bunch of little local sites.
Okay.
Like there was one in Rockland and one in Sac, called the Women's Business Center. And you show up, they have workshops, they offer consulting services, et cetera. Wow. And I effectively attended one of her workshops and learned that, she's a business coach. And, I don't have to pay for this. I can just get it through this program.
Right. So she's like a private consultant that's basically getting paid to plug into the government to service the people who are taking advantage of the resources.
Exactly. So she's got a government contract based on effectively the hours that she dedicates to her clients. And like over time, the clients need to show like, there's progress. Sure. I've hired this many people. I've grown to this amount of revenue or whatever metrics, depending on the entity.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
That's really cool.
I always wondered too, how many people there are these programs that are set up through the public system, but it's like, personally, I've honestly never considered using them, so I wonder how many people do. And here's one.
Yeah. That's great. And it's like getting the word out that they exist is probably part of the battle because I didn't know that I could get a business coach. Through that kind of a program. That's awesome.
No, it's amazing, and they're so underutilized and like.
So was it no cost to you?
Yeah, I've never paid for her business coaching.
Wow.
And it's been a couple years. We meet like pretty much biweekly is what I'll say, frequency wise for 45 minutes an hour, and effectively like she's funded through the contract. She has like the government contract. So amazing value, especially for like new emerging entrepreneurs that maybe don't have big bucks to spend on like a nice professional executive coach.
Right.
But she does just fine. And ultimately, like what I most benefit from someone like that is the accountability.
Yeah.
Right. Like as an entrepreneur, you guys can probably acknowledge this. Like it's very siloing.
Yes.
Right? You do everything.
Yep.
You might be supervising someone else.
Yeah.
But like, at the end of the day, like you're accountable to yourself. And I find it a little bit more actionable to like meet with someone else, a business coach in my case, and be accountable to her, effectively saying, hey, like this week I did these things. This coming week I'm going to do these things, and we'll talk in 7 days and you'll hold me to account that I did those things.
Yeah.
Right.
So super productive.
Speaking to the accountability piece, I've actually gamified social media a little bit to do the same thing where maybe I'll put out a survey. Like here's one example. I put out a survey a month or two ago about, hey, this is how much it costs to get a website through us, and a lot of people aren't really in it for that. So if that's you, would you consider, a third of the price to basically attend a class where I show you exactly what to do? And I literally expected 2 people to like even participate in the survey on the Instagram, and it was like I got like 15 responses saying like, yeah, if it's real, I would probably do it. And I was like, what? Right? Just like the smallest amount of market research, basically. So here's the accountability piece. Now, instead of me in my head, like, am I ever going to do this? I'm like, well, yeah, now I am. And by the way, there's probably somebody, if I take too long to get around to, is going to be like, hey, are you going to do that thing that you said?
Right, right.
And so I've kind of like gamified social media. And I've done this with the meetup. The podcast is similar actually too, but the meetup, we set a date and it's like public and it's like this thing I got to do, the podcast is similar. Like, just like you had to take the time out of your day to show up to the table. Like we have to, set this all up and sacrifice all that time. But it's like, and it's all for it's like a good thing that we're producing. But at the same time, there's this accountability piece. Like Chris is going to show up. We better be
ready.
Yeah, we better be ready. He's coming from Lincoln. Like he's not working. He's not at the office, Mm-hmm. I mean, he might get some like a podcast out of it, which is kind of cool. But, so the fact that you can kind of build that into your, how would you say, entrepreneurial life, having that business coach and having that accountability is great for low to no cost, you know?
Yeah.
Is wonderful. And I've personally also found that having a coach is wonderful when it comes to just having somebody to, you have the answers, Chris. That's the thing. Like you have the answers, and your coach is there to be something akin to a smart mirror.
Right.
Like I'm assuming, like, yeah, your coach is probably giving you some direction and tips, but I would assume that her job is to really dig it out of you. Like the brilliance is in you, the greatness is in you. They're there to work as like a smart mirror to reflect what you already have in you back to you, but in a intelligent way. Like, is that really the truth, Chris? Like, is that really your only option? And then you go, well, no, I guess it's not my only option.
Yeah.
And then the next question is like, I think, like, what else do you think? How else do you think you might be able to approach it? Well, I guess I could go do it this way or this other way. And then you're like, well, now that I think about it, that's actually better, and the coach is just sitting there smiling. And then they're like, well, how much more benefit do you think you could do it the other way? Well, actually, that would allow me to, and it's just, coaches don't let you close doors on yourself is the way, I don't know if you could relate to that, but I've had a coach before, and that I found value in that.
Yeah. I mean, I think, besides the accountability that probably comes directly, I mean, it's I think per your point, being a smart mirror is an interesting way to put it. But I mean, it's just like a form to have a conversation and to like think through, all these things that you have to do, all these tasks, all these tactics you're hoping to execute on, the long-term strategy.
So the productivity for you is like, sounds.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say like sometimes as anyone, like I can get into a lull and like be unproductive, and having that meeting in 2 days, I got to kick it into gear. Like I better have something to talk about.
Right.
Yeah. Otherwise, what did I do the last week?
Right.
Yeah. I found just like simple lists help with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I actually found an app. Well, so it's like a power up for Trello. I don't know if you ever use Trello.
I live in it. Yeah.
You live in Trello. Okay. So like I got my Trello, and we have a board. So currently, like one of the main roles in our keeping us afloat, for me, my main role is like sales, essentially. So I have a Trello board just for pipeline. And then the lists in the board are stages of the customer journey, right? And then, so everything from like prospect to closed or whatever, like, so everything in between. And then, so what's happening is like, as we snowball and get bigger, all of those lists get longer. There's more leads. There's more
projects live. There's more offers that need to be sent. There's more offers that are out that need follow up. There's more and more. There's just
And so when this started, the workload there started to get unmanageable for like seemingly unmanageable. Like, how do I Then I got this power up. It's called like Planaway or something like that. Probably not saying it correctly, but what it does is it lets you drag your cards off these lists and over to like another window, which is a calendar, and it syncs with your Google Calendar. So if I have meetings already scheduled, they'll show up in that view, and then I can just drop my Trello cards like in between things that are already scheduled, and I can just basically fill out my schedule for the day, just dragging my
like time blocking.
It's like time blocking. Yeah. And for me personally, like I really need time blocking. And I need, another thing is like not overdoing it. So like I can time block, but that doesn't account for like random things that come up. So I've also found that like just choosing 3 things, like it's this, and this. It's kind of like Andy Frisella calls it a power list. It's like just choose 3 things. 3. These are, it's like you your day is an absolute abject failure if you do not do these 3 things.
Yeah.
And if you get them done, yes, you can go do whatever you want, but then you have the allowance to add more to do.
Right.
And you probably have the momentum at that point to get task 4 and 5 done.
Yeah. So it's like, that's kind of like pro tips. Like, just stick with like 3 things. If you're having trouble managing or you feel like you're never getting your list done, it's like you're probably just being unreasonable with your expectations from yourself.
Yeah.
3 things, like getting 3 things done in business in a day, like it sounds so small. Mm-hmm. But if you're doing, like, it depends. Like,
if you are consistent with it, 3 things every day is better than 5 things on Monday, nothing on Tuesday. You know,
and like, let me be. It's not like the 3 things are like go to the mailbox and get the mail. It's like no. Like 3 important things.
Yeah. Have you heard of the Eisenhower matrix?
No,
Yes.
I haven't.
Is that the quadrant with the urgent?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, like urgent, important,
Yeah.
important, and urgent. So, I mean, definitely, like, I know day to day, like, I could be caught up in sending all the quotes, like, doing all the
Right.
things that maybe are not, important long term, but, like, have to get done right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the thing that oftentimes I would say distracts, like, an entrepreneur is, like, getting stuck in the weeds, the day to day stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, if you use that Eisenhower matrix, you can also blend your power list with, let's say something like important. What is it? Important, urgent, and important, not urgent. And then you can get all the important stuff done, because you don't really want to be working on not important category.
Absolutely.
So it's like, if it's important, urgent, you should probably just do that first, right? I think that's the thing. And then maybe your last thing on your power list is like important, not urgent. It's still important. It has to get done, but just not first, right? And then it's like, oh, and then I don't know. When you start to get in that rhythm, then things start to feel manageable. And I've noticed it's like, what's the point of all this? It's like, well, to get into lulls less often.
Right.
For me,
Yeah.
because there's nothing worse than feeling like, why am I doing this?
What am I doing?
What am I doing? Like, am I crazy? Like, who am I? Like, I got all this like foam up on my walls, and these like microphones, freaking cameras up, like some crazy like mad scientists of the what. Like, I could just have a job, but I don't want one. I don't.
That's the life you signed up for.
It's the life I signed up for. But luckily, you got to get yourself out of that. And
Yeah.
I just find if I can stay out of those lulls, or at least be in them less often, then my life is significantly better.
Yeah, I mean, both on like obviously like the progress on your business, but like also personally, like fulfillment wise, and just like, how satisfied are you with your life? I can tell you, I'm much more satisfied if I like have a plan of action, execute on it, than like, sit here and twiddling my thumbs. Right?
Oh yeah.
It's,
100%.
the book I'm listening to right now is written by Donald Miller. I don't know if you ever.
Story brand.
Yeah. The building a story brand is a masterful piece if you want to learn how to communicate your business properly, from a marketing perspective. But he also more recently wrote a book called Hero on a Mission, and what he's doing is writing about what you just said, which is, I'd rather be an actor in a story, essentially, working to achieve a goal, than sitting here twiddling my thumbs, right? And it's like, that is what a hero is, right? And so it's like, if you can be a hero, and that sounds crazy, like, oh, I'm not a hero, I'm a normal person. It's like, no, heroes are, not only are they most often like normal, they're like less than normal. Most oftentimes, like, heroes in stories are at a major disadvantage. They're like they're like orphans often, right? Like, think like Harry Potter, like the biggest hero story almost ever written. His story started as basically an orphan who lived under a staircase.
Right.
And so anyway, Donald Miller's book, A Hero on a Mission, summarizes how to find meaning through simply engaging into story. But you have to create that story for yourself. You have to just like choose to do something and go for it. Like, so I guess tying into what we were talking about, it's like, fill out your damn planner.
Right. Yeah.
Right. You actually said, like, I have more fulfillment and meaning when I'm like working on something. It's like, that's it. And so, if you feel like you're in a lull, I think maybe a sound bit of advice is like fill out an agenda and do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the right thing. Like you're not God. You don't know what the exact best possible thing is for you to work on that day, but you can have some idea. But if you really don't know, just like put an agenda together and do it.
Yeah, have a bias towards action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So anyway,
and I think one thing I love that you brought up, Donald Miller and StoryBrand. I became aware of him a couple years ago through a podcast. I just like binge podcasts all day, like on 2X. And that was a big, I would say, turning point in my perception of what effectively I'd started as an 18-year-old was like originally I thought I was the hero.
Right.
Like, and then over time I realized, oh, like that grandma's the hero.
Yeah.
Like I'm her guide, right? I'm trying to help her, navigate these challenges so that she can get to her, pot of gold under the rainbow,
right.
Her retirement effectively, right? So super amazing.
Or at least enjoy that pot of gold.
Absolutely. Yeah,
without
enjoy her
worry
retirement.
and
Yeah, so I think if anyone is in the entrepreneurial space, that's a super great maybe like piece of homework is to like fill out the hero's journey. There's a free one on StoryBrand's website. So great example you bring up.
Yeah. And if you can't find that one, which you should be able to, we actually have like our own version. It's like already a PDF I can send you.
Yeah, just drop a comment.
There we go. Good plug.
Yeah, like it's free. Like it's one of our like freebies. But it's like it's so important that we're like we need our own copy of this that we can just like hand somebody.
Yeah.
Without feeling like we're I don't know.
Stealing the StoryBrand stuff.
Yeah.
It's like it's inspired by that. Like it's
well, it is what it is.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not like they didn't take it from Disney and
right.
et cetera. Like that's how humans have communicated over millennia's stories.
It's
right.
literally it's older than the Bible.
Right.
Exactly. So it's not something that somebody made up. It's a literary formula that reflects the human experience. It's like that ubiquitous.
Right.
Now that's why it works for your business, by the way. Like this, like I said, it's not something that somebody made up. It's something that we refined. We identified the formula for, and just simplified it down to like almost like a math equation. And when you follow it, it makes communicating your business like not just easier, but incredibly clearer and easier to understand by the people that would potentially be your customers and give you money.
That decision maker. Yeah, you're talking directly to them. Right.
Yep, make them the hero. Cool, man. Well, I'm excited to see this new car you're getting for your business when it's done being wrapped.
Hopefully post the wrap. Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's great, man. Well, where can people connect with you? Where can people find you? Yeah, how do you want to?
Yeah.
What do you want to put out there? I know you're getting your website switched over and all that currently.
Yeah, you can go to our website. That's probably the easiest thing business-wise. homedetailservices.com is the URL. I'll drop my cell phone or my email. I don't really care. You can reach out to me, text me, call me, 916-380-8333, especially if you're in the Sacramento area or interested in entrepreneurship, whatever you reflect with my story, my journey. Like I'd love to help people along the way too.
Sweet. Are you on LinkedIn?
I'm on LinkedIn, yes.
Sweet.
Yeah, Christopher Anderson. So good luck finding me. But hopefully, maybe we have some mutual connections. And
John Smith.
Exactly. So.
Well, Chris, has been wonderful having you on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity, guys. And I think the last thing that I was really trying to force earlier, Cody, you mentioned like just having a willingness to like message or in your case post on social media asking like for feedback. Okay. It's like this is my favorite piece of like little nugget, the wisdom nugget over the last couple of years is absolutely the worst thing that's going to happen is someone's going to tell you no.
Oh, like if you reach out,
you can live with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're probably so much happier and better off trying and being told no than not trying and not giving yourself the chance to be told yes.
Right.
I think there might be a whole like book, if not like more, written about it for the sales in the sales category of knowledge. It's like of just actually going for no.
Yeah.
Like actually aim at no. Not in a failure way, but in a like crave no. Because no just tells you what they didn't like about your offer or whatever. And so every no that you get is like a stair on the staircase towards more yeses. So yeah, don't be afraid of no.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of no.
Yes.
Wait, yes? No.
That's awesome.
No. All right, I'm going to stop with this. We can go on forever. Anyway, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah,
man.
thanks so much, guys. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely.